Hello and welcome to Mastering Dungeons. Why am I talking? Where's Sean? Let's see. I see monster parts all over the place. There's this glass cube on the desk and a little mithril hammer. That's cute. It says, in case of host emergencies, break glass. All right, let's try this. Ooh, someone's showing up. Hey, it's Bee Zelda.
Whoa. Hello. I was just feeding my sandworm.
Well, you know, this was so kind of Sean Merwin to arrange for this. He's clearly wrestling monsters in his monster project. And we greatly appreciate you coming here to help us. And it's perfect timing because you have some huge news to share.
Ooh, I do. I am the new, announced, illustrious, fabulous, marvelous community manager for Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League.
Wow.
And it is a very, very fancy title that I will tell anybody who will listen.
Oh, it is worth getting business cards. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you because you are doing hard work for the community. That's fantastic.
I like humans, online or offline, for some strange reason. So this is really what I truly enjoy.
That's a good skill to develop. Many of my friends are trying to develop it.
The pandemic has really removed that from us, you know? What are human beings? In person, don't know. Online, very familiar.
Yeah, and now with surging COVID cases, when I drive around and I see all the people gathering, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know that I like humans again. Like I'm again afraid of masses. But you tell us about yourself. I know you from the Dune live play that we're doing together, which is amazing. We're going to talk about that at the end of the show. And I know you from the Broadswords, which is awesome. But tell us all. You do so much. You stream all kinds of games. Like tell me, and the listeners.
So I don't sleep. I just live in my computer chair. So I've got a long list of things that I'm involved in. As you said, the Broadswords, which is a actual play D&D podcast. You've been doing that for about 4 years, where I just play a barbarian and roll very little. I work very hard to make sure I never actually use the mechanics of the game. Everybody else has to, but not me. I am a host of Anime Attaché, which is a podcast where we talk about the first season of My Hero Academia. I am a member of Power Play, part of that cast, which is a stream and a podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. I stream a heckin' lot. Tuesdays, I've got Dune. Thursdays, I think I'm recording the Broadswords that day. I'm also streaming for Origins Game Fair, where I talk to game designers, either RPGs, board games. If you do a game and you like anime, I will talk to you. That's cool. On Fridays, I am playing Swept Up, which is a Kids on Brooms game, which is just an excuse for me to be like a rude, witchy person. And it's everything I've ever wanted.
That sounds great. I have not played Kids on Brooms, which I spelled Kids on Brahms, which is also a great game, I think. But I've not played Kids on Brooms or Kids on Bikes. They all sound fantastic. And
the systems are great.
Yeah,
Kids
I need to
space.
get back to a convention and have someone roll it for me. And
Man, online is also an option. I got all the tools in Roll20.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. That sounds fantastic. Wow, you do so much. That's impressive.
Got to keep myself busy when I'm living in a chair, you know?
Yes, that is true of all of us these days.
Isn't it?
You are now an AL community manager. How did this come to be?
I was scrolling Twitter, as I do, and Amy had retweeted the D&D AL post that was like, hey, we're looking for a community manager. And let me tell you, this entire pandemic, I think probably on a weekly basis, I have applied to CM positions. But for some reason, when I commented on Amy's post, Amy, who's the other community manager of Adventurers League, a bunch of my friends hopped in and they were like, Bee would make an amazing candidate for this position. Bee is really talented. They deserve this. And it was really sweet. And all of that, community uplift was basically the references that I needed. So for the interview, it was so casual. They're like, hey, we know you. What's up? How's your cats? Like, what's going on? Do you actually want to talk about the interview, or do you want to talk about, cutting your cat's nails? So it was wonderful, you know?
Oh, that's great. When people know you and know your capabilities, then it's easier from both sides. And Amy and Linzura is great people. Fantastic. So what does a community manager do? You know enough that you're just like, it's a CM. I'm like, I was like, oh yeah, now I got to know that acronym.
Got to get the acronyms, yep.
What does a community manager do in addition to mastering acronyms?
Well, in addition to mastering acronyms, it's really just staying up to date. So I'm active in the Discord, I'm active on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, not TikTok yet, but it's just interacting with the people in the community, making sure everybody's happy, answering questions, participating in coming up with silly pun names. It's just really involving yourself. And they're trying to assign me this additional position where I'm going to be a D&D influencer. And it was phrased to me really interesting because they're like, in the tabletop world, there are influencers and there are celebrities. Celebrities are people who have an established fan base before they played D&D. And D&D influencers are folks who've like made their, I'm going to use the word fame very loosely. I have like one fan and they're lovely.
Shout out to that fan.
So like when you're a D&D influencer, it's just like you have a bit of a following online. You know, you have a community that knows that you play D&D and they know that they can turn to you as like an interested person in that community. Yeah. So Adventurers League want to leverage my position so I can just kind of like put more Adventurers League out into the universe, but like as myself, and like to harness that power. I think they're giving me too much power.
Too much power. Well, you know, I remember when that position was posted that there was some talk about that, angle of I think it was on the Yawning Portal blog site that talking about the position, but it was talking about this idea of leveraging influence and getting AL into more places. And it makes a lot of sense because a lot of times you have streamers who are doing things like, I just want to run a quick series of adventures. Oh, where will I turn to find this? And it's like, what if you turned to Adventurers League and you found this nice series of adventures that are super fun to run? But there's a lot to go through there because your average person may not know what is a fun series. How do I get it? Which, you know, there's so many. If you just go onto the guild and look for Adventures League, there's like a million things to look at.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
it's very intense. But like as a newbie, you get scared, and then you're gonna go back to your comfort zones. You know, you're gonna watch that one same stream over and over again. So I gotta be that one streamer that's like, it's okay, it's not scary. Let me hold your hand and I'll guide you.
That's super cool. I'm glad to hear about that. That's really neat. That's a fascinating angle. Yeah, you know, because we're both on the Dune live stream, we got copies of the Dune RPG on Roll20, which was super cool. And it was labeled something like influencer copy. And I was like, I feel like I leveled up in some minor way, even though I feel like really it's just an incorrect title being applied to me. I was still like, this is, you know, kind of cool. Ooh, I'm going to do a little pretend influencer dance. And it is. It is. And it is fun because we do struggle in this space. Sean and I sometimes talk about this on the show, that there are, it's so complicated trying to work with influencers. It's just like social media platforms. Like you're trying to get something out of a system that often isn't clear how you're going to get those returns out of it. Yeah, so it's really interesting. That's cool that you'll wrestle with that. So who is on your sort of immediate like team? Who are your coworkers on the AL space? How are you dovetailing to the rest of the AL team?
Yeah, so my new work best friends are in fact Amy and then Maat. They are just going to be my partners in crime. I have already harassed them for about an hour this morning, and they are not in my time zone, so I'm very grateful for them. They are just like my resources. They are my safety net. They will answer all the questions that I don't know how to answer because I'm still learning all the new acronyms. There are so many acronyms that I have to learn.
It is very true. Yeah, too many. My world is acronyms.
Isn't it?
I have my day job is full of acronyms, and it's both tech and environmental, and then I have all these gaming hobby
and there's
acronyms.
A lot of crossover.
Yeah.
You know?
And we forget when we use them. We just throw them out there, and nobody knows what we're talking about. And then they have to go Google it later. Cool. So, you know, do you want to talk about anything else related to AL or D&D? Anything else going on?
Not just yet. More or less, like because I'm kind of easing into the position, I'm really, really contemplating, like, how am I going to utilize my influencer role? And prior to me sitting in this spot, Latia She used to be the one that had this position. And like, I've looked up to Latia for years.
Sure.
Like her and I were up for that same position for Monty Cook that she's now the community manager for. And I didn't have the resume. I didn't have like the cool Latia hair. I couldn't hold up. So looking at what like she had done before, a lot of like her fingers had been in Rivals of Waterdeep. There had been a lot of really good content that had been published and created because of Latia's influence. And I want to take her powers, harness them myself, you know, put them into like a necklace and, you know, close it for use later. And streaming is really my baby. Podcasting, just a way that folks can engage with me and learn about what the community has to offer.
Yeah, it's fascinating. That is so different because like this is such a new space, but I think for folks who are younger than me, it feels a lot more natural and just the way things are. But you know, I made a website in the Mozilla days, and so but I think two things are true. One is that there is this amazing ability for people to establish themselves and gain an interaction with community, be recognized for proficiencies, you know, just that new, and that's where that influencer kind of comes from, is that recognition of people being in the space. At the same time, the things that one uses for this, the YouTube, the Twitch, all of that, are these kind of harmful platforms in some ways. And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors, things that look like success but aren't. Oh, we could have a whole show on this.
Word, yeah, just that as a conversation and trying to navigate that in the parasocial relationships and trying to like maintain your community without crossing any boundaries that you've established and how to maintain your audience. Yeah, that's a whole.
It's fantastic. It's really good stuff. It's good stuff. Maybe if we ever hit on that, we'll bring you back to talk about that, because it is an interesting topic to me. And I think for a lot of older D&D players, it's often a thing that one has to really think through and work through what it all means and how it should all, you know, where will it go? What does it mean? It's fascinating stuff. But we have a lot of news, Bee.
Ooh, yeah, we do.
The big thing that happened, you know, if you're not living under a D&D rock, which is a Galabdor and alive, careful. It's that, thanks. D&D Live just happened this last weekend, and they announced a new book. Did you hear about this, Bee?
I did, and I'm really, really hyped for it. Also, D&D Live, they had some amazing guests for that. Like, again, celebrity guests. I'm a sucker for that.
I mean, yeah, it is something to see some of these people play D&D. So, like, yeah, like you're saying, it was this combination of like, we're going to give you news, we're going to give you famous and recognized people and influencers. And then just there were surprises. There were some big surprises that we're going to get to. So the first thing is this new book. I think that's a lot of what your average D&D fan was looking at. And it's called Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. Comes out on October 19th. And there's all three books that we're going to talk about have alt covers. This alt cover, have you seen this?
I haven't.
Oh, it is. You've got to look this up. It's two dragons. Ooh, yeah, I gotta find where it is. Oh, yeah, in that link in our show notes, there'll be a link in the show notes, folks. In that page, there is both covers are now on the D&D page for that site, and it's got these like swirling dragon heads, one above the other, like sort of your Bahamut Tiamat kind of battle thing. That kind of concept. I don't know that it's actually Tiamat Bahamut. I think it's just a red dragon and some other dragon, but. It's really cool. And
that's gorgeous. Oh my word.
I had a lot of fun listening to interviews and coverage of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. I am totally excited for this, don't get me wrong, but I also couldn't help but listen to all this and go like, oh, it's another Draconomicon, which is a book that has existed in 2nd edition and 3rd edition and 4th edition, but it gets a new flashy title, which is in line with things like Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes and Tasha's and Xanathar's and all that. And I think it's a lot like Mordenkainen's or Volo's in that a third of the book is a bestiary. And we're going to get godlike great worms, We're going to get Gem Dragons, which started in Dragon Magazine. Friend of the show, Enrique, newbie DM, he was covering this over the weekend on Twitter, the fun history behind the Gem Dragons. Some of the monsters, I think it's the Great Worms, will use the Mythic Monsters feature from Theros book, which is sort of like you're fighting a monster twice. Because when you kill it, its mythic form comes up and you fight that too.
Boss battle. Mm-hmm.
Super boss battle. Awesome stuff. And we get subclasses for the Monk and Ranger, which we saw in an Arcana article earlier. The Way of the Ascendant Dragon is the Monk, and the Drake Warden is the Ranger. Dragonborn lineages descended from the Psionic Gem Dragons. They had goofy art that showed the Dragonborn crest parts of their head sort of levitating above the rest of their head, which makes no sense at all to me, but I am a fan of goofy things in D&D, so sign me up for it. 4th edition had psionic halos around everybody's head, which I thought was super goofy, but why not?
Again, sounds really cute though, therefore I like it.
Yeah. New spells, magic items, things like that. So, of course, there are all these character options. And then DM tools. There is a lot of lore here, tools for DMs to design dragon-themed encounters, adventures, and campaigns. And this is something that I love from the Draconomicon books, where they'll have this amazing art about the layers of each one. So it'll say, if a black dragon lives in a swamp, what might it look like? Yes. Its lair, how does it protect itself?
That's so integral to dragons is their layers, because that impacts what they are and their environment and how they can take advantage of that.
Yes, totally. And then there's a thing about Horde. The Horde focus, something like the Horde itself will focus the magic that suffuses dragons and connects them to the myriad worlds of the material plane. And there's something here about a new cosmology that will come out in this book. We've seen iterations in 3rd edition and then 4th editions spectacularly so, which 4th edition kind of said that the world started with dragons versus primordials, and that war then shaped everything after it. And whereas I think in older editions it was a little more like long ago there were elves and before that there were dragons. And the elves kind of learned the dragon magic, and then humans eventually learned magic from these and gain more power, and the other things sort of shifted out in a sort of Tolkien way. So it'll be interesting to see how this comes forward, and there's sort of this angle that a dragon can exist in more than one plane, and sort of its horde has some kind of connection to that. So it'll be interesting to see how they move that
That's what that
forward.
means. I was trying to put in my brain, what does that, how do they handle their horde? But that's really lovely. And again, very dragon-esque.
Very much so, yeah.
Bigger than life.
Yeah, and all of it will be told through the lens of Fizban, who in the Dragonlance series of novels.
Dragonlance series? Because Fizban was a wacko.
Totally. Yeah, right?
I did not like that character.
He does Featherfall spell, but it ends up being what is it? Does it end up being a bunch of pillows filled with feathers? Or it's some it's not the normal Featherfall spell. It's a weird version of it in one of the early novels. And but he is secretly, spoiler for Dragonlance, the avatar of the good platinum dragon god Paladin, which we might call Bahamut in other settings. It's never entirely clear if they're the same thing, just like Takeshis is Tiamat in other worlds, and are they the same? Who knows? Is it a reflection or is it the same? But Ray Winger, who's the executive producer for D&D, said this is not a Dragonlance setting book. But maybe it has draconians in it, so that could be interesting. But I guess it gives you a taste of it, and
totally,
yeah. So that's cool. New book,
Dragons.
October 19th. So that'll be great.
Nice and soon.
Coming out a month before that is the Wild Beyond the Witchlight. We've talked about this before, but there were some new details for this fae-themed adventure. The writers are AL alums Stacey Allen and Will Doyle.
Yeah.
They are fantastic people and some of my favorite writers out there. Super creative people. These are the kinds of folks that they're doing cartography and writing. They're talented in multiple areas when they're not creating video games and raising a child. It's just,
that's so much.
People like that. So
truly
good.
Talented.
Yeah.
I can't manage that. Oh my word.
Yeah, it is hard. And I certainly cannot draw. And they are so good. And so one of the fun things was there's this picture of the carnival that is featured in this adventure, because a big part of this is Mr. Light and Mr. Witch, I think it is, which is why it's called Witchlight. And the carnival, Stacy and Will put into this tie-ins to the 80s D&D cartoon.
Really?
Like in the map, there is this roller coaster for the carnival, and it is the roller coaster with the kind of dragon cave entrance from the 80s cartoon.
Oh, it is so good.
We also got to hear that Warduke, Kellic, and Strongheart from the 80s cartoon will be in there.
Oh my goodness.
As NPCs. So that's just amazing.
Oh, that's great. Everybody's going to want to interact with them.
Right? Oh my gosh. And even if you never heard of the 80s cartoon, I think it's going to be a fun way to relate to this and have a link into some of D&D's history. It's for levels 1 to 8, so it's a shorter type of experience. And there are some talks here from Chris Perkins that there are a lot of nods to the past in this adventure, not just the 80s cartoon. Like one of the clowns is called Thaco the Clown, which comes from the To-Hit Armor Class 0 of 2nd edition.
Oh my goodness.
And Thaco the Clown is a really clever, joke, kind of inside joke thing.
That would have went right over my head, so thank you.
Yeah. And he said that some of the playtest results were like, we just wanted to stay in the carnival. And there's a whole second part to the adventure, but apparently the carnival is such that you could just throw that into an adventure and then move on because it's so much fun, this real whimsical experience. After that, you go to the Feywild itself for the sort of second part of the adventure. And it feels a little bit like some of the domains that you see in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Mm-hmm. And in fact ties into it, which we've been talking about, Sean and I, on the show. Ooh. That there is a carnival in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft in one of the domains, and it's that they have traded carnivals. The carnival owners have traded carnivals with each other. So there are some reflections in this, and the story ties into that sort of trade that took place.
That's really cool. I would definitely only play in a carnival given the option. Like, I love the Feywilds. Don't get me wrong. One of my favorite settings, but like carnival, kind of cooler. Yeah,
it's pretty neat. There are a lot of spoilers and more information on the stream. We're gonna keep away from that, but maybe go into it once the book is out. The story inspiration for this includes Ray Bradbury's "Something Wicked This Way Comes." And we'll see, in the past, we've seen some of these story inspirations that later we're like, oh, okay, sure, I see elements of this, but it's not heavy. So we'll see how much it is in there. Time is a component of this adventure, with time moving differently in the Feywild versus the Shadowfell.
I've been having to answer... Well, I've been looking at the questions that were, people who are playtesting this. And like, how does that affect things? Because that is such a new mechanic and a new element. And it's very, very cool.
Yeah. Chris Perkins said that all of the challenges in this adventure can be handled without combat. That seems about right for Fey Adventure.
My kind of game, yep.
But, certainly there's plenty of damage and combat to be had if one wants it, but there are ways to get through that without. There's also part of the adventure where you can take custard damage.
Custard damage?
A new damage type apparently is invented for this adventure. Custard damage.
Oh my goodness.
So you probably don't have resistance to that, folks.
I need that. That is fabulous.
There had been a Unearthed Arcana that introduced the fairy and rabbit folk races, and those apparently will be here. The same Unearthed Arcana article had a variant hobgoblin that was like a fey hobgoblin, but someone said that this is for another product, and so not actually in this book. So that's interesting. And then there are some backgrounds. Yeah, very nice to see. The Phaelost and the Witchlight Hand. Then there's a whole bunch of minis, and bear with me, Bee, because I love minis.
All right, I'm ready for this.
Yeah. So there are visible NPC minis that are tied to this adventure, which is usually there's a sealed set, and there is going to be a sealed box set of minis, but there's also a bunch of NPCs. This is similar to what they did for the redo of Strahd. League of Malevolence includes Warduke from the 80s cartoon and Kellic from the 80s cartoon, as well as Skyla, Ringelrun's former apprentice, Zarak, the half-orc assassin, and Zargash, the evil cleric. These are kind of 80s names, aren't they?
The names are so bad, they're great. Like, oh my gosh, like old school fantasy vibes, so strong. Zargash.
Totally. You never knew whether we were kidding or serious in the 80s when we named something. There's a second visible mini set called Valor's Call, and this has Strongheart the Paladin, Ringelrun, and this guy is a wizard who, if you've seen the kind of it's kind of like an alt cover. It was like sort of the second cover for the 1983 AD&D Player's Handbook, and it's sort of this swirling, misty blue with this wizard in front with like big white beard. So that is Ringelrun. So that's kind of also cool coming from D&D's past. Moliver, the good thief, Elkhorn, the dwarf fighter, and Mercion, the cleric. And this is kind of fun. I remember that there had been art, I think it was in Tasha's, that showed Kellic. So very fun to see this.
Like them come to life with the minis. Oh.
There's also going to be a Witchlight Carnival set that has 10 or so visible minis that are also NPCs from the carnival. One of them is like sort of like a merfolk type person in a giant ball of water. Like there's some,
I want that. I don't own a single mini, and I want that.
well, this is unfortunately $80, but
that's up there. Is that a lot for minis? I've never bought one. Okay.
This is expensive for 10 minis, but I mean, I guess they are kind of larger, kind of fantastic things. I think Thaco the clown is one of them. Then a separate one, WizKids is making a swamp gas balloon. This is a hot air balloon that has space in the little like gondola thing to add minis, and then it's elevated on a stand. $80 as well, but that's really cool.
I want that one.
Yeah, that is going on my to-buy list.
Oh, that is so
cute. This is the first time this has happened. There is a WizKids miniature set called Collector's Edition that is like a one of everything for this entire series.
Oh my word.
$750.
That's up there.
Yeah, that is up there. And it includes 81 minis. So you get one of every mini in the collectible blind box set thing. So it's a full set, all rares, uncommons, common, one of everything. That alone is not a good buy because you can get a case of minis for about $460 or something, $480, I don't remember, $450? Yeah, $450. So if you pay $450, you would get one of every rare and then several uncommons and multiple commons. So that would be a better deal. But wait, there's more. You also get in this collector's edition all 11 minis in both premium sets, all 10 minis from the starter sets, all 7 promotional minis, and 2 unique minis only appearing in this set. That's how they get you, collectors.
Ooh, yep.
One of them is Tasha.
Really?
Yeah, and then some multi-page booklet as a checklist. But so given that it includes all the premium stuff, it's probably a good idea. What I don't know is whether this thing is only available through WizKids, or could it be that this $750 set will be available in online retailers and that could bring the price down, or that it could be your giant gift to the local gaming store's economy when you buy it there. I don't know. That I don't know.
Okay,
but it is available for pre-order.
I have a very serious question for you then.
What's that?
I have a very serious question for you.
Yeah, please.
Would you ever drop $750 for all of those minis? Like, is that because I'm not a collector. I don't collect anything except cat hair. Like, so I don't know.
Premium cat hair is
premium
available.
Cat hair. Right from the source.
So sadly, yes, but only because I have a really good day job. And what I usually do is my day job pays bills, pays for children to go to college, all those kinds of things. And my wife also works and has a really good day job. Mm-hmm. And because of that, when I write and I do my hobby funds my hobby.
Oh my gosh, that's smart. That is good.
So if I get, $500, $1,000 for a writing assignment, I then get to decide what to do with that money. and the great joy is often buying things that I would in no other way have purchased as a person who was very poor growing up, and struggled all through college and graduate school and all that sort of stuff. So there's no earthly way I would have done this in the past, but now I literally, my hobby allows me to do this fun expenditure. So yes, I would.
Love that.
I'm even considering it already. We'll see, because it's a lot. That's a lot. I mean,
what do you do with your minis? Do you take pictures? Do you post them on like an Instagram? Like if I wanted to admire somebody else's miniature figurines, like where? Because I'm never gonna buy them. I just want to look at them and be like, that's cool.
I sometimes do Twitter threads, and my blog often covers mini sets.
Awesome. Okay, so folks can admire because it sounds like you might have an extensive collection based on your passion.
Thanks to a friend of mine, I have what is probably one of the largest miniature collections. Like, for example, there is a rare... Yeah. Again, thanks to this person who's... You know who you are. You're amazing. There is, for example, the Pit Fiend miniature that came out in 4th edition that I think each one costs like, I don't know, $175 to $100. Okay. I might have more than 12 of those.
Oh my word.
Thanks to this person. So, and that's just a sample of some of the absurdity of my collection. So yeah, I know. It's an illness.
I'm impressed and terrified.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But WizKids is making so much that I honestly can no longer catch up. I used to try to have everything, and it's impossible to do that. We all of us who have this illness agree. But some people are smart. They just sit there with a little crossbow man figure and they use that for everything, and that's all
probably
they need.
What I would do.
That's the good way to do it. But there are some nice things that entice you here. Not only with the WizKid minis, there is the Witchlight Carnival Dice and Miscellany for a very reasonable $30. You get a dice set in orange and purple, 11 dice. You get a felt line box that doubles as a dice tray, and illustrated double-sided player-friendly map of the Witchlight Carnival, concept art on the other, and 19 double-sided reference cards with NPCs, creatures, locations, games, and other features of the carnival.
Oh, that's really good. $30 too.
And they've done these kinds of things for Avernus and Icewind Dale and things like that. They're great little sets. This is a super fun. This is like, to me, this is like the perfect Christmas gift. You ask for this for your holiday gift, and you'll be so happy with it, reading the lore on the cards and the art, the dice. It's great. Also available, because there's more.
Ooh.
Beetle and Grimm's, that make these premium, amazing versions of every adventure, announced this weekend both silver and platinum editions of Wild Beyond the Witchlight. It was discounted for the weekend, so I don't think it's. You now have to pay the street prices, which are $175 for silver and $500 for platinum. But I looked at the silver and platinum.
Jump. Oh my word!
A lot of it is that they're including things like minis and a plushie and a few other things. But
I love plushies.
So if you love that, then and you have $500, you will not be disappointed. I have seen both silver and platinum editions. They are amazing.
Okay, but a plushie of what? This is the game changer question, because I will never drop that amount of money, because that's not where I have my hobbies. But like, I love plushies, so
I don't remember. But they had a is her name Lilu, the Holophant that was in Descent into Avernus? It's not Lilu, it's Lulu. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you. So she was in she was the plushie in that set.
Yes.
I think there might have been a snowy owlbear in the Frostbane. I don't remember. But they're usually very cute. If you like plushies, you would want this. But the silver one is honestly, for $175, if you're going to get together with your friends and play through an adventure, and you want these super cool maps, super cool DM screen, fold out images of monsters you can put over the screen to show your players. Like, this is a really big benefit. And if your friends are willing to help you, you would all have a wonderful campaign. And $175 would be honestly a steal for what this provides. So take a look at it. It's pretty neat.
That's a lovely way of putting it too. You got your gaming table. Why not just be like, hey group, this would benefit all of us. Right. And we all pitch for it if we're all, in agreement. That's heckin' lovely. Aw.
I think so. That's what Monte Cook has been trying to say to people. Like, don't just buy it on your own. Like, see it as a sort of investment in your whole gaming experience. And suddenly, when you divide this out over the number of times you play, it's not that bad, right? It's cheaper than going to the movies for everybody.
Oh my word, yeah.
Yeah. And no COVID. Last book, which we have, was Strixhaven. We didn't hear a ton about Strixhaven, but they did say one thing that I thought was super interesting, which is that there were a set of Unearthed Arcana subclasses that allowed multiple classes to take each one. So you might be wizard, druid, sorcerer, could take a particular subclass, and then another set of spellcasters could take another one. And apparently the player feedback was negative, so this has been scrapped. And instead, we'll see character options like feats tied to a specific college and other ways to kind of give you that college membership experience. Huh.
Which is neat. I'm a little bummed that they scrapped it, but I like the way that they're trying to reintegrate that same feeling, just mechanically different.
Yeah. And they said, and this is also, so one thing is that I am a little sad because I didn't love the particular design. My things were more like, this is too powerful or it might slow down gameplay. It was less the idea that multiple classes can take one thing, which while it is a little unbalanced, as a player, I don't care about that. Well,
I don't play games to break them. I play them
exactly.
to be chaotic, so...
Yeah, I don't care whether as a bard I lost something or gained something compared to a wizard. That is my last worry. To me, more is this subclass fun and is it balanced and going to create good play at the table?
Exactly.
So what they said, Jeremy Crawford said they learned that fans want subclasses to speak to the distinctiveness of a particular class, and that subclasses should be applicable to multiple settings, so that they didn't like that these were Strixhaven focused. Huh.
Interesting. Okay.
I actually feel the opposite. I actually love the idea of things that really just focus me in on an experience, and I'm okay if they don't super work later.
I understand why folks would want that to be in the bigger picture, since there's so much content to be able to reapply, but for the sake of the folks who are making this, I think I understand why they were trying to keep it narrow.
Yeah. So, interesting stuff. They also announced during this show, so much news, 10 DMs Challenge Finalists were announced. Andrew Bashinsky, Brian Curran, Melissa Kester, Aaron Merrick, Abdul Mahmoud Nichols, David Reynolds, Angela Elise Simpson, Danielle Solano, Sergio Solorzano, and Brad Thompson. I love the diversity in these names. Yes. Really cool, showing it that, this is not just...
Remember back in the day when it would all be straight white man names?
Yep, it would have been everybody Chad.
Tom.
Tom.
Sorry if there's any Toms out there. I'm sure
John
you're
and
Tom,
yeah. And really shout out to everybody who's called Chad, Tom, or John. You're keeping it alive. Keep doing it. Be a good one. But it's really cool to see just how this is clearly reaching out further. And given that because of the limitations of contest designs, companies can't easily run contests in tons of countries. So most of Asia was excluded for this. I think a lot of Latin America, parts of Canada. So that's due to the legalese of it. It's not because Wizards hates those countries. So I'm told. No, it's true.
Can't confirm or deny. No.
I think we can confirm.
We're good.
They do not hate the other countries. But so now these 10 contestants will be doing weekly competitions. 1 to 2 are going to be eliminated every week, and I'm not entirely sure how much coverage we'll see of this. But how are they going to make this into a cooking show? I have no idea. But I do know that by the end of it, the top 3 will be given a final challenge, and the winner will be announced during D&D Celebration. Congratulations to the top 10, but to anyone who entered, because if you made an entry, then you took that voyage, that step to kind of create for an audience, which is very hard if you haven't done that before, and that is the greatest gift.
Yeah, we respect the drip. A lot of work goes into that, so thank you to everybody who participated.
Yeah, totally. Now, Bee, tell me that I saw and did not hallucinate this next item. Did you see this?
Is it the Nerds candy? Yes, D&D and Nerds. So excited for that. I love branded nerdy things, and it's nerds, it's a beautiful marriage between two nonsensical things being brought together, and it just makes my candy-loving heart very happy.
It is amazing. I happen to like Nerds candy. There are a lot of candies that over time I've been like, I no longer like that. It's too
Why
sweet
did I eat
or whatever.
that as a child? Yeah.
Nerds has stuck with me. I will definitely always take this from the Halloween candy pile.
Yes.
And now there is a super reason to do so. Well, first, I gotta say, there are 2 commercials that are really cute.
They're wonderful. Little wizard
one. Yeah, and the little robe twirling around. So each of these, if you find the nerds that are marked with like the D&D name, you can take this receipt and you can plug it into a website, nerdscandy.com/D&D. And if you do that, each time you do that, you will get an adventure. Mm-hmm. 1 of 7 custom D&D adventures written by friend of the show, Kat Kruger. Kat's amazing.
I love Kat.
So good. And adventures are designed for 1 DM and 1 player, which is super cool for this kind of format. It makes total sense for what's going on here. And if you do all 6, you will get the 7th for free. And there's also a pre-generated character sheet with each adventure. And they're all family friendly, which I know Kat is perfect at writing that kind of content. Mm-hmm. This is a brilliant promotional idea.
Isn't it? It also gives me like, I don't know. Oh, I was about to be like, I don't know if you remember back in the day. Do you remember when we got like cereal boxes and they used to come with like CD-ROMs of like the Roller Coaster Tycoon or things like that. Very strong vibes. Or like when you had to like send in like a cutout of your cereal box, like your mailing address to like be entered to win in something. That is the kind of energy that this is, and I miss that.
Yes.
Like we haven't. I don't feel like we've had that in a long time. Not to the same. I mean, I haven't been as excited about something like this in a long time.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way. You're totally right. Yeah, it does feel like, my cereal boxes are now quite lame, and this brings back that energy. You're right. Wow. It
gives you a reason to want to participate in these kind of things, because like marketing, we're in this weird space where like marketing crosses over to like people, and it's like our brands are individual people, and I want to pull away from that because they're still brands and they should be treated as such. So the way Nerds is handling it, they're still very much a brand. They're just partnering with another company to get us involved, and I like that.
That's great stuff. This also means fans of the show know that I periodically try to benchmark where D&D is today against the height of the 80s, which I think anybody will admit, if you have my crazy brain, that the height of the 80s was when there was branded baloney, D&D brand baloney. It was in Spain. We have photographic evidence. We know it's true. Thank you, Internet. And D&D branded Nerds is just shy. I mean, we are at the cusp of the 80s. We've been in the 80s in a lot of ways, but this is that kind of branding that, we're really close. We're close to, back in the 80s, you had the D&D, the little like plastic bicycle that you could sort of push around, one of those little kid, bikes that you could just push around that are all plastic with big plastic wheels and stuff. We had the birthday party set for D&D in the 80s.
Is this real?
So,
really?
Yeah, these are all real things.
Oh, my word.
And D&D branded baloney, which, of course, the height. We were, this is just, we're there. We're almost there. We're so close.
I don't think we'll ever quite hit the high note of D&D branded baloney, but Nerds is a good second. It's a good second place.
The 80s have received notice today. Yeah, so did you watch any of the coverage, these interviews, these kind of the hosts going crazy? And the host spoke so fast, I felt old. I'll admit that.
I didn't get to tune into that, no.
Yeah, it was a mix of, it was clearly a marketing drive. I think G4 did most of the work this weekend on sort of aligning the show and kind of maybe scripting it or whatever. And I think that was an experiment in that format of to me, it felt like watching one of these talk shows, like a Today Show type. Not even Today Show's a little slower than that, even. But it was a little fast paced for me, and a little marketing for me. And my favorite comment of all on Twitch channel was someone saying something like, "This is basically just to sell their book." I'm like, yes.
Yep, you got it.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for understanding the assignment.
But I did have a couple of thoughts watching. One was that there was sort of so much going on with 3 books that there wasn't one hard theme, right? Like it wasn't like we're all in the deep cold of Icewind Dale. It's frost, it's ice, it's horror. Or Waterdeep, the big city show that we had when they did that D&D Live, and everybody walking around in a Waterdeep experience. Or the Tomb of Annihilation Chult type thing. It's traps, it's jungles, it's lost tombs. This sort of felt, it was constantly ratcheting. It was like, we're going to cover Magic the Gathering. We're going to do something that's a little horror style. We're going to do something that's carnival style. It really went back and forth. Okay. And I'm curious whether that loss of having one strong theme will hurt D&D. My guess is not at all.
I don't think so. Especially if they're pandering to, that's not the right word, especially if they're marketing towards people who have the attention span like me. Like the way you're talking about that really appeals to me. I love to give me everything at 2-point speed, make it bounce back and forth, and it's wonderful.
It was cool. Well, I think people are really excited by everything that happened. So we'll see what other news breaks from this as time goes on. Let's switch topics to Acquisitions Incorporated.
Ooh,
the C Team was back. This last weekend also was PAX Online. And on the 17th, the C Team gathered again under DM Jerry Holkins. And they dug into why Omen Drawn is sort of like hidden away in this pocket dimension. I am about halfway through. I have laughed so much watching this.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
It's like watching old friends. It's so good. They did say they're going to be back in August, so I'm super excited about that. Catch it. There's a link in the show notes, and they just today provided the direct link as well.
Nice.
Yeah, love the C Team.
Something to look forward to. Hell yeah.
And we didn't talk a lot about the live streaming during D&D Live. Kate Welch, who's one of the players on the C Team, ran a fantastic game with Jack Black and the Clerks folks. It was so ludicrous. So many parts of it were super imaginative, creative. The kind of D&D that only select DMs like Kate Welch can pull off.
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. A lot of the streams were pretty good to watch. I had a good time. I watched parts of all of them, and they were really entertaining.
Caught a couple snippets just to be like, oh my god, look at that cast. What adventure is this? This is good. This is chaos. That makes me happy.
Amazing. On the Magic the Gathering side, people are starting to get their cards, but also we had the third free adventure drop, which is promoting the Magic the Gathering card set. We covered the previous two in previous episodes. This is now at 9th level. Before they were 8th. The Verdant Tomb is written by Will Heinmark. And we've been following the trail of this evil plane-traveling villain. Now we go to his grandmother's tomb. And there are some neat things, very tiny, minor spoilers. There's a shambling mound that killed a tomb robber. And therefore the bones are inside, sort of composting. So the wraith that rose from this dead tomb robber lives inside the shambling mound and moves with it. That is a really cool way to boost a fight to a higher level. I loved it. Put a creature in a creature. It's the kind of thing Will thinks of.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
And there's some nice small stories here, like what happened to these grave robbers that were here. The kind of thing that lets each DM kind of decide how to impart that knowledge and tell a little story about it. There's an interesting new spell in the adventure and a new magic item, which could be a lot of fun for DMs. I won't spoil it, but it has some neat design angles. So that's cool.
I love that. I'm always a fan of new items. Give me new magic items. Let me use them just for not the purpose that they're made for, any other purpose possible.
This is why my favorite magic items are always things like an alchemy jug.
Yes, give me a jar of mayo,
Oh, man. In other industry news, the hobby game sales topped $2 billion for 2020 for the first time.
Dang.
That is a 21% growth. It was $1.675 billion in 2019, so 2020 was just over $2 billion. The results by channel, meaning strata of the hobby, were mixed. The Kickstarters, mass merchants, online retailers all went up. Surprise, due to the pandemic. Specialty retail chains were down. RPGs grew an impressive 31% in 2020. Word. And that's on top of 2019, which had been 23% growth.
Oh, my word.
And almost as surprising is the fact that this takes us to about 105 million.
Yeah.
which doesn't feel that big.
It's not actually a big number, but for our tiny industry, it's so exciting.
Yeah. There are bad movies that do that, but
right.
But and bad video games. But still, we are growing and are now above 105 million. Board games also grew 19%. Dice and card names had about the same growth, so it was really strong all across. And I think what a lot of the hobby is wondering, can we sustain this, or as things open up, if we ever open up,
that'd be interesting,
Totally. And I think every brand out there is trying to, all the big companies, whether it's Wizards, whether it's board game companies, they're trying to keep that going, right? That's their number one mission.
Yeah. They need that hybrid solution where online and in person are both things that can be profitable.
Yeah. On that idea of keeping things growing, WizKids has not at all slowed down. Oh, wow.
What have they got for us then?
No, you won't. I mean, I can't believe this. You're talking about me being a collector. This is where I sit down and cry because I can't do all this. Wand of Orcus, 30 inches long, on a wall mount, $150.
Oof.
I mean, that is a big price, but how cool would that be in your gaming room? The Wand of Orcus. If you told me this in the 80s, I think I might have murdered someone to get it. No, not really. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, though. Anybody's house you go to that has that mounted on their wall, instantly cool. Instantly cool.
Yeah.
I need that.
An Afridi holding a sort of mail-clad fighter based on the first edition cover of the DMG for $250. So we're clearly getting into these like collector's item figurine type things. You're not even going to use this to play.
No, gosh, no,
it's a
not for that
weird
price.
Scale, and the other thing that's interesting about this is the original cover has sort of the helpless maiden in his hand. So transforming this to be a male fighter was very cool. Good update on them.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's based on the classic DMG cover. Another one was an adult gold dragon, $90 with removable flame. I love big minis and I love removable flames. The red one that I have has that, but a gold dragon is just not. There's like an Eberron adventure that has it and some things like that, but you just don't get high utility for that for $90.
No, the appeal of a gold dragon, it's not. I've never run an adventure with one. I'm sure they're lovely, but it's just they're not as cool to me.
More reasonable, all three figures for $80 are the Archdevils Baal, Bel, and Zariel. So if you want to go deep into devils, the Zariel mini looks particularly cool. And one that when I saw this, I thought this was so cool looking. Jublix, the Demon Lord of Slime and Ooze, for $70. And it's this incredible green-black goo with like eyes, and it's all emerging from a broken stone well. This you could use for any kind of like really cool ooze terror threat kind of thing. I mean, just beautiful. And it also will look great just on a stand somewhere. But
who doesn't love a little bit of ooze here and there? Good
true.
aesthetics.
Yeah, it's true. Bring tissue. Archdevil Garyon is $50 coming out with big, huge wings and lower snake body. And then WizKids has these big like dragon heads and things you can mount on walls. They now have the owlbear trophy plaque. It's the head of an owlbear mounted on a seemingly wooden plaque. $450.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hear me out though.
Yeah.
I am vegetarian. I don't believe in I don't hunt recreationally or anything. So never in my life have I ever considered that I have the opportunity to mount a animal's head upon my wall. And now you're telling me I can get an owlbear trophy plaque on my wall.
Yeah.
It's pricey, but also to not have to hunt a real animal and do any of that work involved.
Yeah.
That's kind of solid.
Yeah, and owlbear fans are plentiful. We've seen that on Twitter.
Yes, I love them.
This joins their line of, they have a Mind Flayer head. They have a beholder that you can hang from your ceiling.
What?
Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. Yeah, check these out at WizKids. They're all around this similar price. It's a painful price, but you do get this, very big, huge thing. It's the size of almost like a poster that you'd put on your wall, and it requires like mounting screws to go into studs in the wall. Like you can't just put that into your blaster.
Oh my god!
Yeah, they're all amazing. They have several of the dragon heads. I dream of having these. It's the constant joke with my family that anything that any big purchase we consider, I will say we could get that red dragon head for me. Yeah.
One day, my friend, you will get one.
And things that you would not think would continue to exist, but there is another board game in the adventure system of board games. These are those games like Castle Ravenloft, a Chardalon, where you can play solo or with friends, and sort of a simplified D&D version. So this one is called Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and it includes a Save the Town game mode that places the tiles down. You don't explore like you normally do, putting down tiles. So it's different than previous adventuring system games. It's only $50 for the board game and $90 for premium edition that adds only 8 pre-painted miniatures. So I don't know about that, but $40 for 8 minis, like, woo.
At that point, buy the board game and bring in your own minis.
Yeah, but it is available. One thing that I found recently, I shared this on Twitter because these things are all available on dndmini.com, which is the WizKids site. I recommend not buying there and buying from your local retailer or a different place, because I ordered on April 26th from dndmini.com, and I am still waiting on some of my order.
Oh my gosh. Wait, you received some of your order?
Some of it, yeah. I ordered, it was just 5 things. They were all marked as being available.
Yeah.
And 2 of them came, and I'm still waiting, or 2 in a promo. And then I'm waiting for, the other 2. You
should probably email, because it sounds like it might have got lost.
I have yet to hear back from them. So yeah, it is. They're clearly and I know there's pandemic stuff, but they clearly are routing to their retail people and to their online sellers, because I can go to other places and buy these stuff that I'm waiting for. And I've seen online retailers actually replenish their stock in the time that I've been doing this. So it's clear that if you're like the last priority, and I'm sorry, a sale is a sale. You need to kind of get me my stuff. It's one thing if you want to say out of stock, but if you told me I could buy it,
I'm still stuck at the fact that you received half of it and not the other half. Who was packaging?
yeah, and then more shipping for them. But oh well.
Yeah.
We have 2 last quick items. Chris Spivey speaks out about the challenges for small companies. Chris Spivey is a designer of a number of things, including the acclaimed Harlem Unbound, and Haunted West is coming out soon. And he, on his Twitter thread, talked about the challenges a small company faces and how people often assume a huge level of success based on being published and having praise and winning awards for these books. But he says, there are very few actual plays out there for my game, a handful including my own. I have a few scores of devoted fans on social media. Thank you. Harlem Unbound was profitable, but barely, and tries to clear up some of the misconceptions fans may have about how big a company is, how successful studios are as independent third-party type studios. And he openly wonders, how am I supposed to grow beyond my current size? How does one make it? And kind of encourages people to have a discussion. The Twitter thread is linked in the show notes. I think these are really important conversations for our hobby to have.
Especially it's that level of success that people assume that you have. And that really goes for a lot of game designers. And I know folks who are still hustling, and they might have 6,000 followers on Twitter. So folks think oh, wow, they've made it. No, they still have a day job, They still write at midnight when their kids are sleeping, and that's the only, bit of silence that they can get. It's not easy going. It is a constant grind.
And I think folks, just as with influencers, right? People think that anybody that has a known entity recognized and so on, that somehow money is freely available for them and success.
Right. Harlem Unbound is a really funny one too, in the sense that I've been told this. So first off, Harlem Unbound is a setting in Call of Cthulhu. So we're already dealing with Call of Cthulhu deals with some pretty intense stuff, and that's not always everybody's jam. So you've got the horror aspect, and then it takes place in Harlem. And I'm a Black Canadian, but I have had people tell me, I don't want to play a game where I have to be a Black person because I'm not comfortable with that. And it's that's not what. No, we can play on the set, you can be whoever you want, but we're still going to be dealing with the consequences of this world that has been created. Right. And there will be some things that might make you uncomfortable, but hey, that's Call of Cthulhu. I've had issues trying to get folks to play this with me.
It's tough. It's really tough. I've thought about that too with a friend of mine who's creating a very Hispanic-based campaign setting. And again, yeah, it's that question: am I going to limit my audience, and are people going to have? Which is weird to me because we do so many things that aren't us or aren't a version of us as part of role playing. That's almost the point.
Exactly.
I mean, I play a swarm of ball bearings when I'm playing science fiction things. Like, I think I can maybe jump into this. You know, I think I can handle this for a second, and maybe it's going to be really good for me to think through these kinds of aspects. But yeah, it's tough. It is tough. It's especially tough, and I think, you know, some of what's behind Chris Spivey's story applies to any role playing game, but I think it especially applies when you're talking about creating Black role playing games or any kind of POC.
Honestly. Do you remember Cartel when that was released?
Yeah.
Not only were people upset about it, but they're like, I don't want to play in a cartel. I'm white. I can't do this. Like, what? This is literally a role-playing game. There are rules. There are mechanics that you can follow so you feel safe and comfortable. Play with the group that you trust, you know, that you can talk to. Have that session 0, and then that game is for you, you know?
Yep.
I get passionate about these things.
No,
Had
absolutely.
this conversation many a time.
Oh, goodness. So it's a good thread, you know, and good to keep in mind that these small companies, they are truly small, and it's a precarious thing for them. Success is not easy, and prolonged success is basically non-existent. So it's a hard place to be. Moving on to someone who has had really great success, MCDM. They had their 1.3 million Kickstarter for Kingdoms and Warfare some time ago, and now we get to see the fruits of all that labor that has been done by great folks like Jameson Tucaso, and the designers on this Kingdoms and Warfare book include Celeste Conowitch, Gabe Hicks, Justice Armand, Mackenzie Darmus, Sam Manel, all great people.
All of those humans, they're all amazing.
Yep, and they've all been involved in the magazine as well that we talk about, Arcadia. So the PDF should be, by the time this recording going live, available on the MCDM shop for $25. Because of COVID, the distribution of the hardback book, if you backed it, is still being figured out. So there's no timeline yet communicated, but you can now get that PDF. I received a copy because I wrote the adventure in this book based on a super awesome outline that the team and Matt Koval created. All of it is gorgeous. I love the layout. I love this book. I'm the kind of person who I wasn't sure this was a product I wanted.
Okay.
And as I started seeing what they'd done with the idea of having a campaign that also has a war going on and rules for how that warfare interacts with your play, I was really won over. Like, this is a really cool system, and will create a really cool campaign experience that'll be unlike any other. And the adventure tries to teach that and facilitate that. So we've got a link to our show notes, which you can get from the MCDM shop, so you can order that.
Are your show notes at the end of like all of your recordings just like a novel's length?
You basically get the document you're seeing, Bee, and it is available to our Patreon subscribers.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. So thank you to those folks. So that is all the news, which that was a show worth of news.
Yeah.
news knows. But I wanted to kind of at the end, because you and I are both on this Dune role-playing game, share a bit for folks who might be interested about what the Dune RPG is and about the live stream we do. So yeah, what do you think, Bea? What do we want to talk about here?
I mean, from my angle, I can absolutely talk about how amazing it looks in Roll20. I am a sucker for not having to do math. And this is like, it's a Modiphius game, so it uses the 2d6 system. You have focuses that can be applied. You've got stats, and like, don't get me wrong, the math in this game, the mechanics are very streamlined once you have it down. And Roll20 just makes that so much easier, and I really appreciate it. Even like, I know there's not necessarily combat per se in this game, but I'm looking forward to once our adventure really picks up, and we're going to be rolling to make decisions, rolling for intrigue, rolling to survive against the sandworms. That is going to be what really takes me into the adventure, because we have spent, I mean, we're doing like a learn to play stream as well with our audience. So we're really breaking down the content that people who want to play this for the first time can do so by following along with more or less just our conversations. You know, we've made it rather easy and accessible for folks, but we spent a good chunk of time making our world, because it is the spice world.
Yeah, which is really cool. So, like you're saying, this is a learn to play stream, so you can learn how to play this Modiphius version of this Dune RPG. And our first episode was all about you build your house. And if you know anything about the Dune novel or movies or whatever, it's house warfare in a sci-fi setting, all around the fact that there is this planet called Dune or Arrakis that has this vital resource of the spice, and houses are fighting over it and doing all this sort of intrigue. So when you create characters, you are part of a house and you get to define your own house. You could just be the Atreides or Harkonnens or whatever, but you can make your own house. And so we did. And we were a little bit silly with it, but it also has a solid basis, which is the House of Posh, because we're playing off of the idea of Spice Girls.
Yep.
But then I think you came up with this idea that maybe we were into foodstuffs.
Yeah, I don't even know how that started. I don't think it was me. Maybe it was, and I was just hungry, but...
It could be. But yeah, so the idea is that our house manufactures spices and food, but not the spice.
Exactly, not the spice, other spices. Mm-hmm.
We create the kind of like TV dinners, but also we have this entertainment side. So it'd be like a TV dinner that when you open it, it like plays a little 3D video or plays a song or something. And so it's both your entertainment and your meal. And it is also in its own kind of an illusion, just like the way that shows and media are. The food itself, it may say steak, but it isn't really steak. It's something else we made in a vat on our weird planet.
With our limited supplies.
And the last angles were kind of assassins, right? Like, or we have that angle to us that we will eliminate people who stand in our way.
And we have a mortal enemy. We don't consider her our enemy, but Paula Dean has, devoted most of her life to finding a way to assassinate our house.
Yeah. Yeah, which is great.
I love it.
I love having, you develop your enemies. So we did that, which was really fun. And that was on like the first show. And then the second show, we made our characters.
Oh gosh, and trying to flesh those out, that was an experience. I'm going to play a Fremen exclusively because I wanted a sandworm, and I had to really consider, we're not on Dune just yet. We're on our own planet, Spice World. So I'm like, how can I manage this? And when they're just the little, what are they? Not called larvae, they're tadpoles.
Yeah.
So it's these weird little noodles. So it made sense that I just have a tadpole and my little noodle guy called Spicy Poops, because they poop the spice, and he lives in a fishbowl with me, and I just kind of carry the fishbowl in my Fremen outfit, and that's the premise for my character. Yeah,
it's great. I'm a little jealous that you get to play a Fremen. I think that's very cool. I'm playing a Sook doctor, which normally these doctors go through all this training and conditioning, which is kind of like mind wiping, basically.
Yeah.
Where at the end of it, they cannot harm anybody under their care. And I basically skip that part. Mm-hmm. So I am both a doctor, but I'm technically the master of health and nutrients. And the idea is that I'm actually into poisons, though I can cure you. And so, people, I'm a bit of an infiltrator. I'm inscrutable, and sort of the hard to read doctor that people are not quite sure that they're going to honor the care promise, and that is in fact true.
I look forward to our character interactions when that finally happens as well.
Yeah, and we've got Eliza Pearl, Cohen Edenfield, and Justin Turner rounding out the players. And then our amazing DM is Richard Milana Weber. Rich is great. It's all on the Saving Throw show and on the Saving Throws or on their Twitch and YouTube channels. We record every Tuesday at 5:30. I've been updating my blog post on the show where you can find some notes.
You?
Yeah, so you can have, as the YouTube release comes out, then I'll link to that. So you can catch all those episodes, and it's cool. I've received some feedback from folks who say this is really helpful. I own this RPG, but there's always that climb when you get a new RPG.
Oh yeah. How do you get into it? What page do you start? I never start at page 1. So what do you do?
Yep. Yeah. And so this is, hopefully gives people more utility out of it and shows you how easy it is to jump in. And because you've already seen a group go through choosing a house and making their characters. Mm-hmm. And also on the video we showed, because we're using the Roll20 integration, you can see how easy that is and decide whether it's worth buying the Roll20 version because you can then, surf through the different options and make your character in the character sheet that they provide and all that. So pretty good. It all uses the Modiphius 2d20 system, same as in the Star Trek RPG, where you roll 2d20 and you're comparing sort of against your drive and your sort of the skill that fits and your motivation for it. Which makes it kind of story rich.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
20 is a fail, a 1 is a success.
Yeah, you're rolling under.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to this, tomorrow when we record this week. It'll be the first time we're all really playing, and so it'll be interesting to see as we start succeeding and using our various capabilities. We all have sort of interesting features that we can use to bolster.
We're all very unique humans in this setting, We've got, like you said, some very special capabilities. Like, I'm going to play a smuggler, but all I want to do is smuggle little sandworms.
Yep. Yeah, we've got a Mentat, and we've got a Bene Gesserit. Eliza's playing the Bene Gesserit, and Cohen the
like
Mentat.
A space pilot? What are they? A spacer.
Yeah, and Justin, who's a member of the Spacing Guild, he, because of Duncan, Idaho, which he feels is sort of the dumbest sort of like, are you kidding me? You really went with like a state name. His name is Brad Montana. He used a state name as his last name, and then Brad. Yeah, so that's his own commentary on Duncan, Idaho. I think it's great.
It's so good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bee, for coming in and helping me through this awesome amount of news. Wow.
Yeah, we killed it.
What an exciting time. We did. And we're going to continue to kill it with our baby sandworms.
Yeah, we will.
Looking forward to that. So I want to take this moment to thank all of our listeners and our patrons. If you like the show, please consider supporting the Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com/MMP. B, where can people find you on social media or follow your work?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter is at @B_Zelda, as well on Instagram, though that's mostly just pictures of my dog. And that is just B_Zelda_. Cool.
You can find me blogging at alphastream.org. You can subscribe there and get a free supplement. Ooh. You can find, I tell you, all about world building. You can find me on Twitter at alphastream and the forums at forums.misdirectedmark.com. And our podcast, you can follow on Twitter at Mastering D&D. Mastering Dungeons is a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Hey, B, what are we going to do now?
I'm going to go wrangle some sandworms and ride them throughout Dune.
That sounds pretty good.
Let's go.